Hello everybody, and welcome to another exciting podcast for the destruction of America. Today we are going to focus on racism. I'm going to give you some truth, some profound thoughts, and some analysis from none other than me. So let's start off. First, racism. Racism, by its very definition, is hatred towards a group or individual based on the color of their skin. So for me, it could be hating a black man or a brown man or a yellow man. Not saying I do, because I don't. But that is its simplest and purest form. There is also what we call systematic racism. This is how the system is built to benefit a certain color of person and to be a non-benefit for other colors of skin. But first, I'm going to get into where racism is today. We've seen a lot of things in the news, in the media, social media, focusing on white privilege. What is white privilege? They seem to believe it is a gift given to white people because of the color of their skin, that we are inherently set to be better off than minorities. I'm going to debunk that really fast, because when we go to and look at education levels, money-making ability, and things of the sort like that, white people are not on the top of the scale. In fact, we are in the middle on most of it. Asians and Indians and other Middle Easterners all outperform white people when it comes to making money. We all know that we see a lot of Asian and Middle Eastern tech guys, doctors. They make a lot more money per capita than white people do. So let's debunk that really fast. The next thought is that white people are the majority of the racist people in America. I'll debunk that again. What is racist for white people they are hate groups that are whites. You know, the Ku Klux Klan, neo-Nazis are predominantly white, obviously. They're hate groups. But then we have to look at other minorities also have hate groups. We got groups like MS-13, which they claim is a gang, but it is really a hate group because only people of Latino descent can be in MS-13. They will kill white people, black people, they'll kill cops. Inherently, we would call that a hate group. We know the Black Panthers are a hate group because they wanted to kill whites. So white people aren't the only people that have racist ties. A lot of the racism right now is still being blamed on slavery, and of course white people are the target of that. But again, white people didn't start slavery. If we look back thousands of years ago, slavery was actually started in Africa when the Pharaoh enslaved the Hebrews. And if we don't go by Christian theology, they still enslaved all their people in Africa, and they built the pyramids and all that with slaves. Modern day slavery was started by Muslims who enslaved white people, or Europeans as they were called back then, and enslaved black people. In fact, the Muslims were the ones that sold the black people to the Europeans coming to America, where white people did in fact own slaves. So did Native Americans, and so did black people. So the argument on slavery is null and void, because every race, color, and creed on this planet has had slaves at some point in time. So to inherently blame white people for slavery is a fallacy. So please stop. Do your research, get your facts, because it's not true. But what we do have to address is this this growing hatred towards white people. Let's work on some symbology here. A couple decades ago, white power was seen as racist, and I'll admit at the time that was used as racism. Today we now have black power, brown power, yellow power, rainbow power, which are all symbols of the strength of unity of that certain type of people that fits under. Why is that not racist? If it came from racist roots, I would still think it's still racist even if someone else uses it. But that's just me. I mean, think about it. Does it make sense to you? Probably not. Let's look at all of the groups such as UNICEF, NAACP, La Raza, Rainbow Coalition, and there's many others. I don't have all the names, but basically there's a whole lot of groups that get together to support minorities. A lot of them do some really good things for their minority constituents, but they only include members of their race. If white people were to do that, we would be deemed as racist, and the group would be called a hate group. Makes no sense. We've got stations that are deemed for only a specific population. Use BET. They have award shows where not a single white person gets an award. We have Univision, which is Hispanic. Again, you really don't see a lot of white people there. But all the other mainstream networks incorporate every color of the rainbow. They include gay people and straight people. But these other networks don't. And they were seen as empowering to their race. Again, it's pretty blatant racism aimed at white people. There's these battles, we'll call the Women's March, that's meant to empower women. A lot of the women that attend these are just man bashing the whole time. So again, they're hating, but can't have a man's march. The Million Man March was meant for black people to march. If white people would have shown up, it wouldn't have been so good. We have Black Lives Matter that do let people in that are not only black, but they only focus on black lives. They're not focusing on the unity that they could have with white people and every other race. Sounds kind of racist to me. A lot of this is nonsense. I mean, there is racism in this world. There's racism in our country. But let's not overshadow one race's racism and point everything back at white people for being racist. I can tell you this in my own experience. I have witnessed a lot less white people being racist than I have witnessed black people being racist. And perfect example is when I lived down south in Arkansas. I went to a school with 1,300 people. Of that 1,300, only 30 of us were white. We were well in the minority. I moved down there. I had always been a top performer in my classes, and because of the color of my skin, I was put in the classes that were nowhere near my education level. Led me to sleeping and being forced to test out of the classes so I can get into a more competitive class. It worked the first year, and again the second year I was there, I was again put into the classes that weren't up to my education level. Again, I had to fight and eventually got put into the good classes. I had to deal with 3-4 times a year that the black people would attack the white people. They called it Bash a Honky Day or Bash a Cracker Day. Can't remember, it's been 20 years. But it's a day that all the white people that did show up to school that day were hunted down and beaten up by the black people. The teachers let it go on, the school district let it go on. And from what I had heard, it had been going on for years. It was tradition at this school. I also was in a civics class, and you're saying civics. All right, you're learning about the government. You're learning about what it's to be an American citizen. And a lot of that we did. Being the only white person in the class, it was tough every day when our black teacher was talking about the things black people had had to go through. Even tougher during Black History Month when we got to sit and watch Roots from beginning to end. So you can imagine it's a 6, 7, 8 hour long movie. It took 2 or 3 weeks for us to get through that movie. And every day I was pointed at and called honky and cracker, and multiple times chased down after class and threatened or hit and abused because I was white, called slave owner, without knowing that my family and my ancestors have only lived in the North, where free slaves were. My family had fought to free slaves. My family had land where free slaves, you know, came from the Underground Railroad to hide. They didn't know that. They didn't care. They saw the color of my skin. I was white. In other instances, I mean, I can't go into a minority neighborhood without being looked at funny. That same state where I lived in Arkansas, on more than one occasion I went to the wrong neighborhood during the day on my way somewhere, and surrounded by black people that wanted to beat me up for being white. Luckily, I knew a couple, so I didn't have to face the beatings in those neighborhoods, and I was given a pass because I knew them. I have never seen a white neighborhood where black people are getting beat up and jumped and attacked. I know it's happened, but I haven't seen it. I haven't witnessed it, nor have I known a group of people that wanted to beat on people for being black or minority. There are nuts out there, don't get me wrong. I know there are people that do this type of thing. I just have not witnessed it. So we can get into the systematic part of this, and here's the hard part. Is our system is flawed. Our system does seem to prefer a certain race over another on occasions. We know that for years, if a black man and a white man go to court for the exact same crime, the black man is more likely to get more prison time than the white man. We saw it, I think, about a year ago when that white kid raped somebody and got probation. That would never happen to a black man or any other minority. Things I can't agree on. Everyone should be treated equal. The only way to do that is to make Lady Justice purely blind and have certain standards that need to be met to impose sentences. Mandatory minimums do not work. Never have, never will. We look at things like your background should determine, you know, your previous crimes, education level, where you live, your friends, and the aggravation of your crime. Should look at those things. But when we're looking at those things, we need to consider something of this sort. A white person in the suburbs that commits a crime should get more of a penalty than a black person in a poverty-stricken community, because that black person doesn't have the same access to education, to a good family life, to money, to a lot of other things that could have led that person to a better life. Instead of saying that the two crimes are equal, they are obviously not, because the white person had all the access to all of those good things and should have known better, and has less of an excuse for their crime. Now we have to base that on the type of crime. If we'll use robbery for an example, you can much more see someone that's poverty-ridden rob somebody than someone in the suburbs that has everything. So in that instance, the white person should get more jail time than the black person. There's other instances. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. My friend Deody also brought up another point. We'll go with jobs. When we're looking at applications and we see a predominantly black name, brown name, or yellow name, you know, Jose, Lamar versus a Bill or a Jim, more than likely in the suburbs and major businesses are not going to look at Jose and Lamar before they look at Bob or Jim. And that inherently is wrong. You shouldn't be looking at the name on the application. You should be looking at the credentials and what this person has done. Look at their education level. If it's not befitting, move to the next person. If it's good, I don't care what their name is. It could be Mahatma. If their credentials say they are fit for the job, you should be there. But we know that doesn't happen all the time. On the same chord, I know if I go to a predominantly minority neighborhood and I throw my name on an application, it says Justin, they're gonna laugh and say, what does this cracker want to do working in our neighborhood? So I mean, it's tit for tat. But we do know predominantly minorities don't own as many businesses as the majority. So what are we gonna do? We know laws like affirmative action are actually more racist than they were intended to be. At one point in time, we did have to force employers to hire a certain amount of minorities because they were unfairly hiring. Nowadays, those rules do not apply to the minority-owned business that has 100 employees. They don't have to hire white people. So inherently it's racist because the same standards do not apply. So we have to abolish things like that. Inherently, what we need to look at is the credentials of a man as opposed to the color of the man, because underneath of this white skin, I bleed red like every other man and woman in our country, unless there's just something wrong with you. If I go out in the sun long enough, my skin will tan. I will turn different colors. Amazing. By the end of summer, if I'm out in the sun every day, I could be of black skin. But inherently, I'm still white. We look at having to get past that. And when I think about racism, I think of, you know, Tupac. I mean, he was a preacher, so to speak, in his rap music a lot about the unfairness in his culture and his neighborhoods to his people. And one little line in particular, you know, misplaced hate makes to disgrace the races. It's true. We all want to point the finger at someone else and say, you know, it's black people's problem, brown people's problem, white people's problem. Inherently, it's a humankind problem. If we're not united and we don't stick together, inherently it's all of our problem. We gotta stop pointing the finger at each other, because the only way to fix the problem is to unite. And the problem with unity is that our political system, the people with all the money, and people with all the control continue to drive wedges, and they do this on purpose because the minute we unite, the minute they have to pay for what they're doing. But if they drive wedges and people keep falling for it, the media sensationalizes racism. We see it by every time a black man's shot, it's front page news, it's coverage for days. When a crazy white kid goes and shoots up a school, it's news for days. There's never a talk about the inner city of Chicago and showing who's shooting everybody there. Never talk when an abnormally amount of white people are getting shot by police versus the black people shot by the police or other minorities. Basically every finger that the news and politicians are pointing is at white people being the problem, and that's inherently racist in itself, because the color of your skin doesn't make you a problem. Your politics make you a problem. Your customs can make you a problem. Where you were raised can make you a problem. Having no father and good family life can make you a problem. But inherently the color of your skin does not make you the problem. So we got to look at how we heal. We got to look at how we can come together. We need to look at not looking at a person's skin color to determine who they are and who they are inside. I mean, even a brown egg and a white egg have the same color yolk inside. So many good things can come when our races unite and we stop using color as an excuse to point blame, to say I didn't know better. And we need to fix the broken system that's out there. We need to make it fair for everybody. We need to go to these inner cities and get them better education systems. We need to make a family law system that benefits fathers in those neighborhoods to stay home with their family as opposed to leaving. We need to stop putting them in jail, and I know that's a huge thing. We need to be fair, and we need to be equal to everyone, just like our Constitution says. People are not coming to this country because they know they're going to get hated. They're coming here because they feel they have an opportunity. And the only way that opportunity can truly be an opportunity is if we work together to get it all done. So, I urge you, stop looking at the color of people's skin as a reason to dislike them. Look at it as brotherhood. Come together. Be united, be one, because inside we're all the same. Our hearts beat, our lungs pulse, our blood flows, muscles work, all of that. Unite, be strong. Quit letting the big shots destroy us and separate us. That's pretty much it today. I thank you all for joining me. I will be back shortly with another episode of Destruction of America. The next time we will be focusing on the education system and the benefits of it, and the downfalls and pitfalls of the education system and indoctrination that occurs in our education system. Thank you for joining me. Comments, questions, hit me up. Spread the word.